Hokey dokey, would you like a dose of Raw to finish us off here today? Good. This was another, I get with the commercials, I guess it would have been 3 hours because I watched it after the fact. I can't stay up for this thing. It's just too late at night. Daddy got to get some sleep. But so I watched it without the commercials, and I still don't have on-screen fast forward, but it's easier to hit the high points when you don't have to fast forward to commercials. You're probably wanting to fast forward some of this review, aren't you?
Well, I watched a lot of it live, so I couldn't really fast forward through anything, and I watched a lot of it live.
The Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Did that used to be the Gund Arena? Have I asked you this on a previous program? Is that where we did SummerSlam 96?
I don't know. Let me find out.
It's next to the stadium. Well, there you go. Another one of these big major corporations, these corpulent corporations have bought naming rights for a Gund Arena. Sounds like it's some bad shit going to go on, right? Some fucking heavy stuff is going to take place. Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Sounds like they're all going to be snapping each other with towels in the shower. But there were 13,432 of them there. And Cleveland is not that appreciably far from Indianapolis. So when you're talking about drawing 13, 8, 3, 9, almost 100,000 people over 3 shows on a weekend, that ain't bad. But we got to talk about, it's not that far from Indy to Cleveland as the crow flies, but the crowd reactions were somewhat different, weren't they? On several people, including Charlotte, which we'll get to, but Jey Uso.
This is the reaction Charlotte gets. I just don't think you realize it. I mean, she got a little bit of a surprise reaction when she returned, but
what is she accused of skinning Dalmatian puppies to make a coat? She's a major star that's been gone for a year because of a major injury that people know is legitimate. And she came back as a surprise at the Rumble, and people were like, yeah, and she won the thing, and the snipers didn't pull out their scopes, and nobody was drawing switchblades. But then 2 nights later in Cleveland, they brought monkey feces to throw at her.
Because she's not a babyface. She shouldn't be booked as a babyface.
But she was about to do a babyface promo that they told her to do until people said, fuck you. All right.
I'll say until we get to that part, yeah. But there was a lot of stuff on this show. I mean, none of it wrestling related. Well, a little bit of it, but.
Well, who cares about the wrestling? We want to talk about the show. But also, whereas the internet and the general, what do they call it? The IWC, the internet wrestling community, was like Jey Uso. And we talked about in the Royal Rumble review that you just heard, but that we had done a day or so ago, this fucking Frankenstein of a show. People there, when they were thinking Punk and Rollins and they had him right in front of them, they were kind of And people on the pay-per-view, they were, well, we got Punk and we got Rollins, we had But these people were right there live and they get to fucking see him. And they went insane to begin with the waving and the yeeting, and the whole place was, as they used to say, the whole place was live. And when he got to the ring, they wouldn't stop and went on to the point where the fans started chanting one more time, and he gave them the signal and they restarted the music and the yeeting. They saw him in this building. He's in front of them. He's a star, and they came to like it. So this wasn't your snarky, worldwide, somewhat jaded internet wrestling community. It was the people in Cleveland. And then he desperately needed to do a promo, not only that got to people with him as the main event guy, but also, what we say in the review, nobody wants to see Jay and Cody. Jay and Gunther, they just did it. But now it kind of makes sense that if they do it again, Jay's going to win. And he did both. Not only did he nail the promo, but then they did the face off or standoff with Gunther that made the people want to see Jay kick the shit out of that guy and make him the pick that he's going to pick when he picks. So this was the segment was incredible, I thought. And it was 13 minutes into the show before he even had to speak words. Between the chanting and the yeeting and the cheering and the people standing up for him and him being overcome with emotion for real that you could tell, it just kept going. And at 13 minutes in, he says, "Thank you guys for that." And they fucking roar again. So now, work aside, and we pick the work apart, and we should pick the work apart. But he is nailing this as far as being the guy that they know shouldn't actually be there because he's not that great compared to all these other guys, but he's so fucking likable. You want him to be there and you'll overlook it. And he comes out and tells the story. I was a tag team guy and I was part of the bloodline, but I didn't think I could ever be the singles guy. I wasn't confident. I didn't have it. But tonight, I got it now. And yay, and they say, "You deserve it." And he was breaking, his voice was cracking, and it wasn't a work. Because he's telling the truth. I worked really hard to get to this position, but I got it because of you. His voice broke up. "Thank all of you. Because of you guys, I'm the Royal Rumble winner." And they gave the applause. This is the only thing that he could have, the only perfect thing he could have done to come out and say to make this is he's likable and he's telling the truth to him. I shouldn't be here. You guys helped me just by liking me and doing the yeet and the whole thing. And now look where I am. And thank you. Now he's their fucking horse if he never wins another race. But anyway, he says, "I'm going to WrestleMania, the main event, just me, Oos." And then Gunther's music hits. And before we get into the Gunther repartee, what'd you think of it? You had to think Jay nailed this.
Of course he did, and he always does. I mean, that's what we always say.
Well, he's not. No, this is an all-time classic. It's
well,
not
this
like
is when you do it. This is when you do it. You're the man of the people. You just won the Rumble, and the place is going nuts for you. It transpired the right way, and it felt right.
But I mean, usually he does the "I'm blown up anyway, so I'm going to spit out a few words where you can yeet" promo, and that's good to fire him up and everything. But this was very difficult to do because he was emotional and it was true.
And that's what it should have been, so it all worked out well. And with Gunther, in no way am I looking forward to the match, but I think the week-to-week build, promos, emotion, I think those intangibles will make the build of the match and the weeks leading up to the match, if he actually gets the match. I mean, we're assuming he will get the WrestleMania match in a few months. It's probably a fair assumption, but
well, now that would be if Jay and Gunther is not for the world title at this point is not part of WrestleMania, they'll be pissed again at something because now they want to see it.
And again, assuming it is, it's the same thing as if it wasn't. I'm sure the story and the build will be good, and the match will have an exciting, energetic entrance, and maybe some drama after the bell, and everything in between will be a problem. Well, not a problem, but not optimal.
Well, not optimal. But so Gunther came out and he did another great heel interview where he belittled Jey Uso. You can't lace my boots. If I beat Cena or Punk or Roman, yeah, but not you. You don't mean anything to beat you. But if you choose me, I'll make every week hell and WrestleMania will be the worst. I'm going to fuck you up. So consider your options. And he starts just walk off and leave him. And Jay says, "I'm tired of people telling me what I'm supposed to be and what I can do and can't do." I mean, the man of the people. The people. And whoever he chooses, he's going to walk out main event Jey Uso champion. And then, of course, they're saying same thing with the women. "I'm going to talk to Cody on Friday and see what's going on." They're not having the pick being picked yet, but but it will be a disappointment, I think, if this is not where it goes. So it seems like that's where it's going.
And I'm sure it will be.
Wait a minute, it will be a disappointment, or it will be where it's going?
I'm sure it will be where it's going.
Okay, well, the way that when I phrased what I phrased, the way I phrased it, and then you came back with that other phrase, it was unphrased. But that's what happened there. I will, again, I'm not going to dissect the match. Ludwig Kaiser against Penta. And the cool statistic was Penta was in the Royal Rumble for 42 minutes, if you don't count that he was eliminated about a minute and a half in. And Kaiser was in for 6 seconds. So they had the long and the short of it there. But again, Kaiser, great worker, and he was calling it. Either that or he was having a fucking long conversation with this guy in the middle of their match. And he was working his ass off. I don't see Penta as being easy for a lot of these guys to work with because of a timing issue and when he's trying to sell, which nobody's ever asked him to before. He doesn't. I get the body language, I don't think. But the people like him and the gimmick and the merchandise, so they're trying to have a lot of these guys that can get the best with him. And finally, the finish was Ludwig hit some kind of big whoop-de-doo and got a 2 count, and then went for an O'Connor roll-up, and out of the roll-up, instead of rolling him all the way over on top of him, he schoolboyed him out of it and fed Penta the arm, and Penta finally got it and did the arm snap thing, which I don't know if that's translated yet, that people understand what's going on there. But then he hit his finish where he drops the guys on their head folded up. 1, 2, 3. So, and then they give him another in-ring interview where he was cut off after he said thank you, and Pete Dunne came out to stare at him, and while that was happening, Kaiser jumped him from behind and gave him a kind of a crossroads DDT deal, and then left the ring and left Dunne standing there. I don't know what Dunne has done to deserve that. But the Penta experiment, what did you think of this contest?
I thought it was all right. And obviously it's a little different because it's the first time he's taken any punishment after the bell. Just all right. Nothing else to add.
Just all right, dog. A little pitchy for me.
I was surprised when Pete Dunne came out. I didn't think we were going to get a Pete Dunne Penta feud. I didn't think that was the way we were going to go after he beat him a few weeks ago, but maybe they like the way they work together.
Ooh, all righty then. Let's talk about I was going to say the 800-pound elephant in the room, but Jax wasn't in this segment. Charlotte came out to Queen Charlotte. Charlotte Flair has returned and came out to the ring. And as we said earlier at the top of this review, we were talking about how different reactions can come from different crowds, even if the sounds aren't that far apart. They booed her like she owed them money. She started out and
I saw this promo before.
Where?
It was almost to the day. In 1993, I went to the 3rd Raw taping at the Manhattan Center. And that was the night Brutus Beefcake made his return, gave the longest promo of his career, and got heckled because he's just given this sob story that leads up to he was all alone and Hulk Hogan came to his hospital bed and held his hand, and now he's back in the ring.
But I remember when he had recounted that it is the parasailing accident.
The way it happened in the room that I'll never forget, and I may be getting it slightly wrong, it's been a long time, but the footage is out there. He starts going down the list of things. He's like, and then my wife left me. And there was this one guy in the crowd that was like, good. And then my parents died. Good. And then my face was destroyed in a parasailing. And the guy just goes, let's go sailing. But they shit all over him. And he had always been a babyface. There wasn't really any question. Well, at least since 87. This is a different story, but same promo.
Well, that's the thing. You could tell she started out, she had something that she needed to say. She was starting to say, I missed you guys. I love doing this. The last year broke me mentally and physically. And every time she'd say one of those, they booed her more. And, and it looked like it was throwing her off for real because she's like, how am I going to she had to think on her feet. And she ended up doing kind of a heelish promo and said, but I came back and I'm the greatest. So boo me now. I'm going to drink it all in because I love you guys. Even though I'm, trying to somewhat follow the framework of the promo she was going to give, when every time she would say, I love you and I'm so glad to be back, they're like, fuck you.
Well, again, she's always better as a heel. I don't think she could deliver lines as a babyface, even when they're sincere. And the other thing is, where this promo went, unless she's wrestling Tiffany Stratton, she's not a babyface against Rhea. No one's getting cheered more than Rhea. So it's what were they doing exactly?
I'm thinking, did they think they were going to have like a Punk and Seth kind of thing where you had dueling responses or dueling reactions that Charlotte would be somewhat heelish, but did they think like I did that, well, she just came back from a goddamn horrible surgery and she is a name and it was a surprise in a Rumble. Hey, there might be, I don't know, but you agree with me that it looked like she was switching gears in midstream to try to salvage the thing because they're just like, fuck you.
No, I thought she did a good job because that's what she had to do. But again, the question becomes, if she wasn't supposed to be booed in a heel, why do you have the most popular babyface come out there to have a confrontation with her?
Well, I'm thinking they, the battle of the icons, whatever. But she was getting hooted with Charlotte and then said, but I fought every day to get back here and heal this knee and the whole 9 yards. And then Rhea Ripley's music plays. And she comes there and mommy is over. And now it's just like, oh yeah, the opposite reaction. And they went back and forth a little while. They've had a couple of matches at WrestleMania. And Rhea says, yeah, I respect you, but please pick me because at the last WrestleMania we faced each other. I beat you. And then Charlotte said, well, the first time I beat you. And Rhea said, well, you're right, but I was just a kid back then. Ooh, sick burn, as the young folks say. But that's when Charlotte said, well, I got nothing but time. I'm going to see Julia. I'm going to see Tiffany, see if they inspire me. But Rhea, you've shown me you're still just a kid. I'll see you next week. And Rhea bowed up at her and said, you show me by the way you talk to me that you don't respect me like I respect you. So pick me and I can beat the respect into you. And one would think they're going in this direction. And I don't, with this response, if it was Charlotte and Tiffany'd probably be the babyface.
Actually, she may have been anyway, just because even though Tiffany, I guess, is Tiffany a heel? I guess technically she was. Did she turn babyface or is she still?
No, I think she's still snotty. They just like her because she's snotty.
I don't know. It doesn't put Charlotte in a really good position there. I mean, these are the two most popular women on the roster right now. It's hard to get cheered against them, so Charlotte kind of has to be a heel, and that's the best way for Charlotte to be used. She's better in the ring as a heel, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to argue that. I just thought that she would have more oomph as a, well, we're glad. We're
no
glad
sympathy
any sympathy. We're glad you're back, but it's like, no, can you please leave again?
I had the toughest year of my life, but I missed you. Boom!
Yeah, fuck you. We didn't even notice you were gone.
I've worked so hard to get back because of you. Boom! That's even worse.
Don't blame us. It's not our fault. All right, but so there's that. And then there was other things which I don't particularly care about. And then the whole thing was Seth and Punk and Sammy. We'll talk about that because Sammy was in the back. He's going to have an Elimination Chamber qualifying match tonight with CM Punk. The first time they've ever wrestled, apparently legitimately in their careers. And he was talking about that for a second. He said, oh, wait a minute, I need to talk to somebody. And he walks across the backstage area, and it's Jey Uso. And he hovers up next to Jey, and the people are, is there tension? Is there heat? I can feel it. And he grabs him and gives him a big hug. I'm sorry I kicked you in the Rumble or wherever it was. And it was an accident. And Sammy gave him a pep talk. You got to go out there and do it for yourself. We love you and you're great to block. Because Sammy's the the reconciliator. Reconciliator? What? He's the person that wants to bring everybody together and reconcile their differences. And then Karrion Kross walked in and started talking to him, and I quit paying attention. Well, I mean, isn't that generally the normal response? You know, oh, this fucking guy again. I don't know. Maybe he'd be a babyface against Charlotte, though.
Let's see what happens.
And then Punk later on in the back responded that he didn't win the Royal Rumble, but neither did Roman and neither did Seth. And I apologize in advance to Sami Zayn, but I'm going to go to the Elimination Chamber tonight at his expense. And now Roman is injured and out for the foreseeable future, is what they're saying. So is he the last man to enter the Elimination Chamber? Or what's going to go on with Roman?
I mean, that's part of the story. Again, it's all Game of Thrones like. Everyone wants the throne. Everyone wants the belt. There are multiple people who want the belt either for the main event position at WrestleMania or just to be the champion again. And Roman is not giving up on that belt. So you got to figure between now and WrestleMania, he has to get back into the picture, or at least trying to hunt for it. That makes sense, the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah. And also another cliffhanger. But speaking of people who should be hanging off a cliff, so Seth Franklin Rollins came to the ring in a black leather cowboy outfit. He looked like Trish Stratus without the proper chest development. And they did the deal where he made his entrance and everybody's, whoa! And they go to the break, and by the time they came back from a break and they went to backstage and they went to a plug and they went to this and that, they may have gone to another break. He had to have been out there for 10 minutes by the time they came back to the actual ring. And what do they do with even a guy as big a star as Seth Rollins? How do they have him stand out there for 10 minutes? Does he go away somewhere? One of the live event members of the Cult of Cornette, please chime in on this. Is he just stand there in the corner like, oh, God damn it, it won't fucking come back to me. What the fuck? So he had a lot of shit to get off his chest. And he is happy for Jey Uso because he wants to see people get what they deserve. And Jey deserved that. Just like Punk. I love seeing him get embarrassed. He lost the Rumble. And Roman, he lost, and he may not make it to Mania at all because he's hurt, and I'm the one who hurt him. I love people to get what they deserve. And I lost the Rumble. That hurts, but there's still the Elimination Chamber. And old Sami Zayn better take care of his business tonight. As a matter of fact, I need to talk to him. So he brings out Sami Zayn. And Seth gives him the pitch that he needs to beat Punk tonight. And all the reason, he said you weren't on his level, Sammy. But it's your night. He gave him the pep talk. Put his dream of WrestleMania in the dirt for good. And go to the Elimination Chamber and fight me. I'm going to be there. And as he's making this pitch to Sammy, who of course is, standing there non-committal, he finally gets to that part, and suddenly you're like a Mussolini coming out early. Because here comes Punk, and he's like, what the fuck's going on? As he's coming down the aisle, Seth says, fuck it, and jumps out and goes to meet him, and the referees are in between them, and they're separating them in the aisleway. There's bad blood and horrible feelings. The mixed emotions between these two. But then Punk goes to the ring. Sammy is in the ring. And the first time ever we got Punk and Sammy. But now again, Seth is trying to convince Sammy to fuck with Punk, even though Sammy and Jey and everybody, they're all happy with each other until somebody stirs the pot here. And then we had, imagine this, a wrestling match where they started with a lockup. They did headlocks and takeovers. I mean, they did a couple of spots. It was refreshing to see wrestling on a wrestling program. And then the tempers flared and they started pie-facing each other, and then they started laying in the chops, but it wasn't the indie level stand here and you hit me and then I'll hit you. It was they were blistering each other and they were selling them. And Sammy works well in the environment like Rey Mysterio, where he's selling and fighting from underneath. And then he'll fight back and he'll pummel Punk, but then Punk will fight back. And at one point, you know, they had CM Punk chants. At another point, they had Sammy chants. And here, one thing, did you have the video glitches? I saw on Twitter I was not alone, but...
No, I had them. I watched live, and they were all throughout the night, but especially there was a moment here in this match where it was pretty frequent.
Yeah, and that's that was network transmission from Cleveland then, right? Because if Netflix's signal live was going out and doing that, then they would have been able to fix it on the replay. It had to be the signal they were getting. So,
do you think Tony Khan has sent the plant like into the truck? We had the audio issues the other day where all of a sudden we get the Spanish feed. Now the regular feed is just cutting out. Very AEW like.
Well, no, the Spanish feed was on the pay-per-view, right?
No, Saturday night's main event.
Saturday night's main event. That's right. That is because it's NBC. It's not their regular network. That I can believe may have been something at Master Control, and they couldn't figure it out until they figured it out. This was not a mistake that they made in the truck and feeding audio to the wrong place or not going to the right video, whatever. This was just going black and breaking up. That's why I'm thinking somehow there was a problem in the transmission between Cleveland and wherever the Netflix network receives its shows to fucking put them out. But it was hard to follow for a minute. But anyway, Sammy hit the Blue Thunder, got a 2 count, and they chanted, "This is awesome." And Punk had been working Sammy's bad left arm through the match and hit a divorce cord on it like Bobby Eaton. And got the Anaconda Vice, and the people are chanting "Sammy, Sammy," and then Sammy squirmed to the ropes and got the rope with his foot and got a pop for a rope break. Imagine what you can do when you're having a wrestling match. And then they had "Let's Go Sammy, CM Punk." And boom, some more 2 counts and false finishes, and the fans were screaming. And finally, Sammy hit that, what do they call it? The exploder suplex in the corner and milked the kick. And as he went for the kick, Punk scooped him and hit the fucking go to sleep 1, 2, 3 and got a big pop. And it was a great wrestling match because it was refreshing that it wasn't the same shit that everybody does. And the people were into it. And then we've established that the Elimination Chamber will be CM Punk, John Cena, and 4 other folks to be named. And then, right as Punk is offering his hand to Sammy, and Sammy takes it, like, okay, we're going to put all this behind us. Owens comes from behind, out of nowhere, and nailed Sammy from behind into Punk. And both of them went down. But instead of getting on Punk, he grabbed Sammy and gave him the package pile driver. Boom! And as he landed, folded up, and boop, we go off the air. So now Owens has turned on Sammy again. Boy, Sammy's a forgiving guy, isn't he, Brian? How many times does a son of a bitch over a 15-year period have to stab you in the back? Isn't this 4 now?
It's been maybe more than that if you go back to the Indies.
Well, counting Ring of Honor, it's at least 4.
We said it a few weeks ago. You got to figure out at some point in their career, and they're not getting younger, they're going to want their crazy WrestleMania match. They've been working against each other their entire lives. They only wanted to work against each other at various times. They came into the business together. The only thing they don't have is a Kevin Steen, El Generico, balls to the wall WrestleMania match.
Well, now their balls will be taped up to the wall. I predict that. I predict we're going to see Steen and Generico part 37.
And what's going to happen between now and then? Because CM Punk obviously has an issue. Someone bumped into him and knocked him out of the ring.
I think he'd be more than happy to be bumped and knocked out of that whole program. If he could just take a bump past the ropes, past the apron, and all the way to the locker room, okay, you guys finish.
Well, that was WWE Raw.